Good morning. I'm Denise Dryden doing my Sunday morning explorations, right? On what's going on and some ideas of how to use a different lens and create some other perspectives of what might be going on. And then at the end, stick around because I always provide you with anywhere between 4, 5, 6 tips on what you can do. Before we get going, I wanted to first of all, this is a new place. So you're going to see me looking, searching around for the best way to set the camera up so I can do this. For right now, this works. I like it. Second, this is going to be backwards because we're on Facebook Live. The Indigo Assignment, my book, has been out now for a month, and sales are going really well. And if you think you're an Indigo, if you want to know more about your parents, if you want to know more about your children, if you want to know more about an era of history, by all means, check this out. You can get it in paperback or on Kindle on Amazon. So let's get going today with the relationship between agitation and doing, because I think that that's the most important thing we could focus on right now, because it's mid-June and we have a lot on our plates. We've got world events, we've got national events, we've got trials going on, we've got tragedies happening, we've got legislation that has us worried. There are a lot of things that are sort of rubbing on us and creating fear and trepidation, food shortages, gas prices rising. And then, on top of that, if you have kids, we are now looking at kids are home from school, so we don't have that 8 or 9 to 3 cushion of knowing where they are and that you can count on them being there Monday through Friday. Now we need to look at scheduling for what do we do when we're working. We've got we're juggling family trips, vacations, saving money for that, making decisions. Family gatherings, celebrations. it just, summer is exactly the time to start looking at where these agitations start to come from and what we can do about them, right? And I'm going to put one more caveat on there, which is, when we look at things like solar flares, when we look at things like activations within our energy system or our nervous system, we also have a new lens developing. And that lens isn't always working hand in hand with the one that we've cultivated for years, right? So we have these two, and now we're trying to figure out how to blend them together. And I think that's the best way to describe what I do on each of these Sunday mornings. So we have lots of energy affecting our bodies. Our nervous systems, they get agitated. We are in discomfort. We are in reaction. We have short fuses, and things are coming fast, or they're different, and they just keep adding more and more stress onto our shoulders so that we are feeling like, I don't know how much more I could take of this, right? One of the things that I did notice is that when we get uncomfortable, right? When we feel discomfort, when we feel agitation, the way that we've been trained is to go into action, is to go into doing. So doing can look like, I need to control this, because if I can control the schedule, the kids, the house, the job, the client base, if I can control this, then what happens is I feel less effects of what's going on out here. The other thing is action. What can I do with my body? How much exercise can I get? How much projects around your house, your car, your work that you can do? How can I distract myself with food, sex, shopping, making random trips to go do research, like on, I don't know what kind of summer furniture I want to get, but I'm going to get out and get in my car and start driving around. I also noticed that some of the doing can be guilt-driven, which is, how did you not see that? How could you? And there's this internal berating that happens when we're noticing that things got big really fast. Another thing that we do is we try to fix it. We try to make it easier for ourselves, fix it. What can I do to make this better for myself? What can I do to make it better for my kids? What can I do to make it better for my partner? What can I do to fix this? And then the other part is if it's coming from a place that you're not necessarily used to grabbing, it can put a lot of doubt in your head, and then you're problem solving and perseverating, like, how did I miss that? What is this? And we're in our heads, and then we're doing action, and we're sort of not all the way present. So this idea that there's a trigger and agitation which switches into doing is something that our culture has built into us over decades and centuries, which is something that if you go back to looking at the more productive you are, the more valuable you are. Whether it's how you value other people, places, and things, or how you are valued as a human. Our work ethic, our ability to put our heads down and produce something has value. And so it's about what we do. So it makes sense that when we're agitated, what we're going to do is more doing, right? So this has been trained into us. It's been passed through the generations from grandparent, parent, child. It comes through our parents. It comes through our teachers. It comes from our professors. It comes from our bosses. It comes from our spouses and their families. It comes from our culture. It comes from our media, which is when you do this, go fix up your house, go get your body in shape, go on this trip. It doesn't really matter. It's always about doing something, and that makes everybody feel much better when we're doing. So our worth is based on productivity in this current culture. So how we work at a job, how we keep our house, how we maintain our body, how we look, how our kids look, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you own. These are all the kind of things that end up being what matters the most in this culture, which is not in alignment with what we're experiencing. So, and so what happens when this really isn't the truth? That we're just replicating these patterns over and over and over again, and they're patterns of action, and they're meant to distract, right? It really distract us from what really matters. So what happens is we get ourselves overwhelmed. We forget our own pace. We forget what matters to us, and we have we forget that within us is this ability to calm and ground our own presence, to really bring ourselves into our own mastery. I'm going to switch my notes here because I can talk for a long time. If I don't hold to my notes, this would be a 30-minute presentation. So what if we are valued or loved or seen or heard, or more exponentially effective around what we can hold rather than what we can do, how we can self-manage rather than what we can do, so that we're gathering ourselves, our scattered parts of ourselves together, and we are embodied and we're intact and we're able to manage our agitation and we're able to manage our reactions and our discomfort. What if this is the most important gift that we can pass on to our children and our future generations? And it starts with us, right? How do we begin? Because it's such a huge topic, right? How do we begin to realize what gets our attention out here, what our patterns and go-tos are, and how do we begin to do something different? So I have 5 tips for you today on what we can do with that. So the first thing is, how do you really know when you're in agitation or reaction, discomfort? Really ask that question. How do I know? How do I know if what it would look like to be a normal, calm, responsive self? And how do I know which ones, and what, like if I'm jolted and I'm starting to go into reaction? Like for me, I moved into this place and it got really quiet, and it was like, need to do something. And my body was exhausted, and I had to catch it and go, what's really jolting me? Oh, it's really much different than I thought it was, and I don't know what to do. Okay, that makes sense. So then go internally and find a calm place. Maybe find a quiet time, some self-talk that's nurturing, that's kind. Get out in nature. Do something that says, you know what? For right now, I realize that this is going on. I need to do something to catch it. And number 2, to be completely honest with yourself. Don't pretend or berate or manipulate or promise, which is, oh man, there I go again. I promise I'm not going to do that tomorrow. I find that that is sort of like that bypass, which is I can tell it's there, but man, I'm not dealing with it. I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to try something else, or I'm going to lie to myself, my body, my inner soul, and say, you know, I get it, but I'm not doing anything about it right now, right? I get it, but I'll do something tomorrow, right? So you have to be really, really honest with yourself. And I've been working a lot with this cauldron, you know, the sacral, which is where our wisdom is. And so if we go right straight down to that place between our hips where we hold these wisdoms and go, oh, that's right, I'm just feeling triggered right now. I'm just feeling agitated. I don't know where it came from, but that's what I feel. So all we have to do is just acknowledge it and bring all of our body into alignment that, yep, that's what's going on, right? And then number 3 is to do a scan. What's going on outside of me externally that has me all churned up? Is it situational? Is it people, places, and things? Is it energetic? Is it the solar flares? Is the collective grieving right now because we have another tragedy that has just brought this energy to the forefront? What is it? And we do it from a neutral, which is, you know, I'm not going to jump on it. I'm just literally going to go, that may be something that's going on because something's got me off. Something's got me moving around, right? Number 4, once you find it, go sit with it. I've been listening to Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. It's really good for when I'm driving because it's in sections of words and I can go back and listen to them over and over again, and how she defines emotions. And when she's talking about her children, she said that her old pattern was when her children came home and they were upset from something that happened at school, something happened with a teacher, something that happened with their friends, right? That she would jump in there and try to fix it. Like, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Come on, let's do something. And what she realized was that she wasn't helping them navigate through that, that process. So what she learned to do was to just go sit next to them in their darkness, is what she calls it. Just sit next to them with empathy and be like, wow, that must have been hard. Yeah. And so when you just sit there and you hold it and you acknowledge it, right? You learn to sit with it, then you know, oh man, I'm just in agitation. I'm just in overwhelm, and I get it. And maybe if I just sit with it and keep going into it and going into it and going into it, then it's not as big and scary, and we don't jump over to these repetitive patterns of doing when we don't know what to do, right? And number 5, we ride this agitation. And we get out of the knee-jerk reactions. We create ways to redirect, which is we sit and we ride with it, right? And then we kind of notice, man, it kind of got big. There was this, then there was this, then there was this. It makes sense to me, period. You don't have to do anything about it. All you do is sit with it until it dissipates, because usually once we acknowledge that we're in agitation and that in reaction and we're discomfort, we have discomfort in our body, it starts to get calmer because we're paying attention to it. We're actually keeping it company and saying, I'm here. Let's just ride this one out. So these are the kinds of things that I've been doing a lot more with, which is we are moving into mastery, and man, you know, being able to address this constant reaction caused, in my belief, externally, in order to keep us off of on our toes and out of balance. How do we counteract that? By going into ourself with empathy, holding calmly, and finding out that there are ways that we can navigate around this agitation into some of our real wisdom. So if you'd like more information about this, or would like to do some coaching with me, or want to talk about the book, you can find me on DeniseDryden.com. Have a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.